What's cracking with you people?
We are back.
Nancy and X here, and welcome back to the Uncanny Valley. Today we just got done watching Mafia 3.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the best of the Mafia games, narratively speaking. Once again, I have not played Mafia 3. We just watched the cutscenes online.
Yeah.
You have played Mafia 3, right?
Yeah, but yeah.
And I gotta say, Lincoln Clay might be one of the best protagonists in the series.
No, he is. No, he is. But I still stick by what I said. The first Mafia is so good, and this one's still second. But no, yes. But Lincoln is definitely a great protagonist. I love it though. Him, Father James, Donovan, Sal Marcano. Yeah, those guys. I love those characters.
Georgie, Sammy, all of them.
Yeah.
So your ranking right now for the Mafia games as they stand, it's still 1, 3, and 2, right? In that order, in terms of from best to worst.
Yeah. No. Now it's. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, yes. Jesus Christ. Yes, it is.
So 1, 3 to 2. Mine is 3, 1, and 2.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that's because the difference between Lincoln Clay's story and Thomas Angela's story is that Tommy was more or less a bystander, a passenger in his own story.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
He had moments where he would take action, but it was always under the orders or pretenses or at the whims of other people.
Yeah.
Lincoln, from start to finish, inside the story has not from start to finish. After the inciting incident, which is basically where about an hour, 2 hours into the story,
yeah,
he's betrayed by Sal Marcano.
Yeah, and Jordan to his son.
Yeah, and from that point onwards, Lincoln is an active participant. He's actively shaping his role, his place in the world.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, just the fact they didn't hold back in the story they told, they had, because there's a lot of, if you are of sensitive disposition, there's a lot of racial slurs going on in Mafia 3.
You shouldn't play the game, period.
We won't repeat them here for sake of YouTube being YouTube, but a lot of N words get thrown around, a lot of C words get thrown around, a lot of basically if it was an ethnic race on the planet, the slur got mentioned.
Yeah, it did.
And so let's start from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Lincoln Clay, inside the story, is a man who just got back from Vietnam.
Yeah.
He just got back from serving his time in Vietnam. And he goes to meet his adopted father, Sammy Lawrence?
I thought it was Sammy Lawrence. Is he the Sammy Lawrence or Sammy Willis? Something like that.
Anyway, the first name is Sammy, and he's the leader of the Black Mafia in New Orleans.
Yes.
He is working under the Italian Mafia of a man named Sal Marcano. While Lincoln was off in Vietnam, right, they had gotten into trouble with another group of blacks called that were Haitians.
Yeah. And
they caused enough trouble, robbing the lard and stuff like that, that it put Sammy's organization behind by like 6-7 months. On that's 6-7 months. I think it started with 6-7 months ago prior to the story starting. It was like 3 months, I think.
Yeah.
They're behind on payments to Sal Marcano.
Yeah, and then it had bumped up to 7 months, and then that was not even including the other money they had to owe Sal Marcano.
Yeah. So basically, Lincoln comes back home. Day one, has this big welcome home party for him.
Yep.
And he's ready to take a dock job in New Orleans, in California, and he's just going to go off, start a new life.
Yep.
Because the weird thing is that the Black Mafia, as it is depicted in the game, at least this Black Mafia, I think there was a Black Mafia in real life, but I don't know much about it.
Me either.
This one is made out to be like, if you get out, you can just get out and stay out.
Yeah.
Or the bare minimum, Lincoln was never fully in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if it's something like the other one, like the Italians in the Mafia 1 and Mafia 2, there's no
getting out without a bullet in your head.
Yeah.
So Lincoln finds out that they're in monetary problems. He goes to take care of the Haitians. He does. Turns into a big mess. And now Marcano calls on Lincoln because he wants to do a job.
Yeah.
Lincoln goes up to this really bougie white people club, and he's the only brother there.
No, yeah.
He's like the only black person. None of the wait staff are black.
No lie. Like if you see how there's a scene where Lincoln meets Jordan, Sal Marcano's son, and so as they're walking into the bougie area and everything, there is this white couple that walks past him. wife literally grabs her purse and looks at it in disgust. I'm like,
and the thing is that Lincoln was very clearly not looking at her.
Not even looking at her.
He literally was smoking a cigarette while talking to Georgie Sal Marcano, aka the leader of the Mafia, aka the guy who basically runs the town's son.
Yeah.
It's very clear that his son's best friend, or at least a very close friend, is this black guy, and you just disrespected him.
Yeah.
Right? So he walks in, and Georgie, to Georgie's credit, right now Georgie is 100%, Lincoln's, as far as he's concerned, best friend. Basically, Lincoln walks in, he basically just got like this t-shirt and jeans,
and
everyone else is dressed nice suits, 3-piece, 2-piece suits,
and all in the bougie hotel is just shocked and just looking at him like.
And Lincoln's like, man, I should have worn more. And George's like, man, who gives a shit? You're my friend. I'm the son of Sal Marcano. They can kiss his ass. So he's got his back. So anyway, so we walk in and we meet Sal Marcano, who's talking to none other than Vito Scaletta, from the protagonist from the second game.
Mafia 2.
As you all know, the weakest game in the series, in my personal opinion, narratively speaking. But this game gets Vito right. This game, I feel like
it gets him right very well.
And here's the thing I'll say about this, right? And this is the kind of the crappy part. In order to understand why Vito's the way he is now, I would argue you have to play Mafia 2.
Yeah, because
it's going to be a drag.
Yeah, it seems crazy because before I started this channel, I'd already played Mafia 3, and I didn't understand Vito's character that well, or another person I'm not gonna mention yet. But when we watched the cutscene, like, oh, now it makes sense. Now it makes sense why he is the way he is,
and by the comments he makes near the end are the comments he makes.
Correct.
So we bump into Vito, and Vito has changed drastically.
Oh yeah.
Like, you see him, he's old. He really has this long ass cut down, like a crescent, like jaw-shaped cut down the side of his face, which tells me that at some point between 2 and 3,
he probably still fucked up.
I won't say he fucked up.
Yeah.
I think what happened is that they made an example out of him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What happened?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They still say, here's the deal, but you're still going to get this. Or maybe he did a job that they expected to kill him, didn't kill him, and he got that scar as a result of it.
Yeah.
That I could see. Because I don't remember that scar being on him
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
But anyway, he meets Lincoln, and he asks him about his time in Vietnam, because, once again, remember, Vito Scaletta was a soldier in World War II.
Yeah, he was.
He got out early thanks to Joe. But once again, he asked him about it, and we find out that not only was Lincoln part of the Army, he was part of Special Forces, a paramilitary unit. And Sal, he's all excited. He's like, "This is the guy! Did I not tell you? Like, he's hyping him up, but you don't find out till later that it's actually just an act. So what's happened is that they want to rob the Federal Reserve in New Orleans. There apparently is the plot is the idea is that the government is getting rid of old money, taking out circulation. So they go, why don't we just steal it?
Yeah.
And they do the job, they get all the people together. A guy named Burke's son, Danny, Georgie's in on it. Lincoln Quaid's adopted brother, Ellis.
Yep.
All of them are in on it.
Yeah.
And Vito lets them know this is the job we're going to do. And then Vito walks off, and then Sal drops the other bombshell. I want you to do this job, but I also want you to replace Sammy as leader of the Black Mob. And Marcano paints it out very flattery. Nothing's going to happen to him. All the money you'll make, Sammy can retire, do whatever he wants. I just want you in charge.
Yeah.
But at the top of the story, you find out from a character named Father James Ballard, who is by far one of the best characters. One of the best characters.
Absolutely.
He's definitely up there in terms of just the character.
Yes.
He's not in it much, but man, is that voice actor still the show when he is. But he basically says Lincoln was abandoned as a kid. He imagines that his mom was Dominican. Right?
Yeah.
And he imagines we don't know.
Yeah.
He says he imagines that Lincoln's white because, once again, Lincoln's of a lighter skin tone.
Yeah.
Basically, like kind of like me light.
Yes.
That makes sense. And he theorized on it, but he had nothing to prove it. And that's usually how you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
It is a thing. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It happens,
Yeah.
And he basically says there's not a lot of. James says while he didn't approve of him hanging with Sammy and all that stuff, he basically mentioned that colored orphan kids basically had little choice. Because this takes place, I said Vietnam, this basically takes place in late 60s.
Yeah,
literally one of the events that happens during the course of the story is the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
That gives you an idea. I think it happens like I think like the day we didn't see this inside the clip inside the movie cutscenes we saw, but the day after Lincoln wakes up. Well, anyway, we'll get back to that second there. Baiting it for later. So anyway, Lincoln says no because Sammy was a father to him. He cannot do that to him. And Marcano's like, well, I can't say I'm gonna lose this boy. And he's like, I mean, I'm sorry, but doing the job. Like, yeah, I was doing the job. Are you crazy? And it turns out, they do the job, and we're cutting back and forth between this job and the opening prologue of the game.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Because the first hour of it is them doing the job. Then we flashback to him coming back from service.
Yep.
Which, if I may say, there was a interesting part in that opening scene when he comes back, where this old soldier from World War II, this white soldier, sits down and he has a real talk with him. I think personally it frames the setting and the story perfectly.
No, it does.
This old white soldier sits down and goes, "He's back from Nam, right? Well, let me tell you something, man. You might be home, but you never really come back."
Yes.
And I think to some degree that's correct.
No, it is.
Having spoken to some members of my family who have served, uncle paratrooper in Vietnam, other uncle who was in the Korean conflict, two uncles in the Korean conflict actually. My grandfather was World War II, didn't get to meet him, but stories people tell me about him. Some part of that comes back with you. And James Ballard, Father James Ballard, he actually has a perfect analogy for it. Imagine being in a dark room with no windows, no doors, and the only thing to keep you is every nightmare to keep you company.
And you're standing there in that dark room with you.
And then one day, just randomly, you're there for so long, but then one day, the door opens and you can walk out. But you have no choice but to walk out. But at the same time, even though you can walk free,
your nightmares still come with you.
No, not even that. A part of you have made peace with the nightmares.
Oh yeah.
So while you're okay with it and you're walking free, you have to reconcile being free and then making peace with the nightmares that's going to take you. And I think that's what the old man was getting at. But the old man also says this. He also says this. Ironically, he's pointing to all these people who didn't serve. He's like, they'll never understand. They'll never understand what we went through.
Yeah.
And then he gets up and walks up and says, stay out of trouble. And at that moment, it's like, ironically, he doesn't get it either.
No, he don't get it either.
And I get what they were going for. As soldiers, they get it. But as a black man, the white man just doesn't get it.
You can't tell a black man that's my father. Stay out of trouble.
Especially in the 1960s when the racism was as prevalent as it was.
Oh my God.
We're talking about the time when a sitting president got his brains blown out for supporting black people.
Yeah.
That's a legit thing that happened, people.
Yeah. It was.
He's all fine and dandy until he supported JFK is what I'm talking about. He was all fine and dandy for the most part. He might have people who didn't like him, as all presidents do. Name a president who doesn't have someone who doesn't like them.
Yeah.
Even George Washington had people who didn't like him. The first president of the United States, Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, same thing. Name a president. I doubt you can name one president who didn't have a portion of the population not like them, who hated their guts. But JFK did the cardinal sin of daring to see the Birmingham. They were hosing people down in the streets with the fire hoses and whatnot.
I heard about that.
He dared to see that on TV and go, this can't stand, I'm making a change. And less than a few months later, his brains are blown out over the trunk of his motorcade.
Yeah.
So that's the framing of where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So and they do a thing where it's like if you're Lincoln Clay, you're just minding your own business, the cops will just randomly look at you suspiciously and maybe pull you over or just come at you because you're black. It's an interesting mechanic. I'm not sure how it translates in the game. It might be annoying, but it does get across the message.
Yeah.
Going for a time period. But anyway, so they all can do the job.
Mm-hmm.
Danny gets injured because he's an idiot and uses dynamite, and the whole safe falls down on him.
Yeah, no, the whole safe falls.
Anyway, they get away, and then they meet back up at Sammy's place. And Sammy's kind of all the money. He's like $2 million. Are they doing $200 million each or something like that?
Yeah, 200
3 stacks, and then there's a bigger stack for Sal. And then
It's-
Sal shows up, and you had to point this out to me.
Yeah.
Sammy had a moment that.
Now this is only for black folks, and this is not me being stereotypical. It's literally true. We have this thing where we know something's off, and we have this certain look, but we know something's off. Sammy, as soon as Sal came in, Sammy looked at him like, hold on, something's off.
Why would Sal be down here to get his money?
Like,
He just wait for
now this is a white man who drove down here
into the hollow, basically
full black folks.
Yeah.
Just to pick up his money. That don't make any sense to me.
Especially someone like Sal Marcano.
Yeah.
He's like leader of the Italian Mafia. He would have somebody to pick it up for him, or have Lincoln, or have Lincoln Clay, or somebody from the black mob deliver it to him.
Exactly.
Why would he show up to this black?
It literally just hit me there. I was like, hold on. That's twice he gave that look.
And Sal's joking and having all this stuff. Sammy goes, yeah, I got your money, and plus it's like here's your cut, plus what I owe, and a little bit extra just to make sure we're square.
Yeah,
and it's like all this stuff.
And then he hugs, Sam, and like
he does the Italian like kiss on the cheek, and then he gives Georgie a look. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
then Georgie tells Lincoln, you are one of my best friends.
But you
should have said no.
And then he pulls a gun out and shoots him, and that's how Lincoln gets that scar from the side of his head.
Yeah.
We actually find out that his skull deflected the bullet, and you actually learn from him that depending on the caliber of the bullet, if it hits your skull at a certain angle, the skull will just deflect it.
Well, he got lucky though.
He got lucky
because that
Sammy and Ellis and Danny, all of them got killed, burned, stabbed, all of it.
Yeah, man, but Sammy, bro, I think he had it worse. Yeah. I don't know, maybe it's just me, cause Sal kept shooting him like 2 or 3 times,
remember Salieri said twice in the head.
Yeah, twice in the head, and literally he was struggling to crawl.
Yeah,
and literally, Sal told him, he looked at his mom, where the fuck you going? And put 2 bullets in his head. Yeah. After that, I'm like, oh my god.
And then they burn it down.
Yes.
Lincoln's barely surprised thanks to James's intervention. Because if James hadn't gotten in there, he would have burned to death in that building.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so Sal Marcano betrays him because he said no to being Lincoln.
Yeah.
To Lincoln being the mob boss.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at Sal, and here's the thing, right? I'm gonna say this right now, kind of bury the lead. The entire plot of this is all Sal's fault.
No, it is.
All of this is 100% on Sal. If he had just left them black folk well enough alone, everything that happens afterwards would have been fine.
Yeah, it would have been fine. Everything would have been okay. He would have had this thing going on and this other thing going on. But the whole point is, leave these black people alone.
So what ended up happening, right, was that once again, and Sal even admits there's enough money there for Sammy to retire off of.
Yeah.
To just dip out the game, you know. And because Sam's not part of the Italian Mafia. He's not made. He's black. It's never going to happen.
Of course.
I think for Italians, if you're anything but Italian, it's just not happening.
No, exactly.
So Sal has no reason to up and off Sammy. He could just cut ties and left.
Yeah, of course.
And you find out later in the scene that the whole reason why Sal was trying to get all this money was that he's trying to leave the game himself. He's trying to build a casino, keep the commission off his back, which is still a thing in the game, the commission.
Yes.
Trying to keep the commission off his back so he can get out of the game so that he can avoid Georgie dying.
Yeah, but that's still fucked up. That you did all of that. You killed all those black folks and shot Lincoln just to protect your son.
And basically the reason why I say it is all his fault. If he had just got his money,
he still would have been fine.
He would have been fine.
He would have been fine.
Because if he's going to dip out the game, he can't just off everybody he knows.
No, you can't.
And who's going to care? And who's going to care in the 1960s about a black guy running the mob?
Nobody's going to.
Basically, Sammy's days, unless things had changed at a certain time, his days were numbered.
It wasn't going to change. It wasn't going to change
anything. But for some reason, his paranoia dictated that Sammy had to go.
Yeah.
So they all end up dying, and then throughout these series of events, we find out, Lincoln goes on a war path.
Yes.
Something in Lincoln snaps. You have to remember, he's a Vietnam veteran.
Yeah.
One of the most common things about Vietnam, and I'm not downplaying other wars fought in U.S. history and history of other nations, but specifically, the Vietnam War was categorized by how hellish it was. I think more soldiers came back with PTSD from that fight than any other war to date.
Yeah.
So, and the reason why I say is that I remember this story that my college English teacher told me.
Yeah.
She had a brother who came back from Vietnam, and he wasn't rat too tight, but he was basically barely holding himself together
Good
enough to
God.
basically function as a human being. And this was back when having PTSD, aka shell shock, that's what it was called back in the day, when it was a thing to be ashamed of.
Wow.
There was a point in time where if you were a U.S. soldier, and well, I'm saying U.S. soldier, I'm not sure about other soldiers, but if you were a U.S. soldier and you came back from the war and you were rattled, you were seen as a weak, pathetic disgrace.
Wow.
Like, this was something that I remember being expressly taught. Unless it's like members of your family and close friends who truly understood why you are the way that you are, to the rest of the world, they didn't care. And to the rest of the people who saw the military as like this big macho thing, the fact that you came back scarred, there was something inherently wrong with you. Not the situation you dealt with, but wrong with you. Now things have changed. Yeah. Luckily, people understand that shell shock PTSD is very much a thing.
Yeah, it is.
If you've seen, I give Marvel Magazine a lot of flack, but Civil War, Sam Wilson in the VA scene, perfect.
Yes.
Absolutely perfect. Because he's talking about how it is when you come back, you bring baggage back with you.
Yes.
If the problem is, how you deal with it, are you going to carry it in a little man purse or a big ass bag?
Yeah.
Is it going to weigh you down or is it something you can manage? And this was back when we didn't have that. So I bring this up because my English teacher's brother, about 10, 15 years after Vietnam, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He gets a call one night, and his best friend, someone who he survived the war with, gets shot by a random robbery. And she said something in him snapped, and he took his own life that night.
Oh God.
That's how messed up the Vietnam War was. And I think what they're implying is that when Sal killed Sammy, Ellis, and Danny and burned that building to the ground that they lived in, that's what made Lincoln snap.
Yeah, he snapped.
Because the next scene, he's recovering. We meet John Donovan, one of the best characters in the game. The dude is unhinged, just like
yes,
Lincoln,
he is.
But unlike Lincoln, he's way more focused and analytical than
he is. Good Lord.
And the next thing he wakes up from his coma, he recovers, and he goes, and he looks at the picture of Sal, and James is in there with him going, now you kill Sal, that's gotta be it, it's gotta end with Sal. Yeah. But Lincoln goes, no,
it's not enough.
I want him to lose everything first, and then I'm gonna kill him.
I want him to feel what it means to lose everything and have it taken away from you. I was like, yo.
Because even James understands that Sal's a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And he needs to put him down. But he doesn't want Lincoln to go down the path. He even says, though, once you start down this path, there's no coming back. You gotta see it through to the end.
Yeah.
And James, once again, he wants basically no part of it. He basically becomes Lincoln's central conscience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we see through the course of the story with James that it wears on him.
Oh, of course it does.
To the point where one time later story, Lincoln actually does the right thing and saves the dude's life. Granted, dude was helping out Marcon at the time, but he saves this guy's life, brings him to James' place and says, James, I need you to help this man out.
Yes.
And Lincoln goes, I appreciate it, and James gives him this dead ass look, like, no, we are not cool.
We are not.
Is that look that you get from someone you thought that you were good friends with when you've done them dirty.
And that was on, like, I think that was like almost like the middle ground where he was about to snap.
He's still willing to help kids out until this is all done.
Yeah,
but this is as far as he will go.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we find out that also that James might be the only person in the city who understands what Sam's going through, because he served in World War II, and apparently he was part of an all-black regiment. He was the only black troop in that area, and they had to do some stuff to capture some encampment.
Yeah.
And he said that he has so many medals that he doesn't want to talk about.
Yeah. So
which tells me that he did some things he's not proud of.
Oh yeah, of course.
So he understands full well what's going through Lincoln's mind. So he's not going to try to talk him out of it. He just wants him to understand that this is going to be a toxic path.
Yeah, it is.
In the course story, we see Lincoln slowly dismantle not only Sal Marcano's entire empire, but dismantle the racial hierarchy that was established in the South in New Orleans. Because he kills a prominent radio host who's basically
that man
had it coming. But it's one of the things that kind of speaks truth to reality, that a lot of these rich old white people who come from families that have like my family goes back in American history hundreds and hundreds of years, and it turns out this guy was basically helping the Southern Union, aka this game's version of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel happens more often than people are willing to admit. Like once again, I was working at I was up in college and I was working at the ACOC Theater in Greensboro, and it turns out that the guy who the theater was named after had ties to the Nazis. So my last year there, they renamed the school. They renamed the building.
Are you serious?
Yes, they renamed the building because when that came out, I was like, no, we can't have this.
Yeah.
We can't have this. So and that's happening more and more. You know, they're tearing down Confederate statues, that kind of stuff. We are seeing more and more that a lot of these legacy names have enough dirt and enough negativity that we can talk about them in classes you go to school, but they should not have monuments named after them or be praised in some kind of great way. So having that character be not only like have him taken down and have him crucified and burned by Lincoln, yes, it was extreme, sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you kind of get what Lincoln's doing. Like at the same time, Lincoln's basically killing off people who wronged him, racists, or just absolute scumbags.
Yeah, but they all under Sal McCarran.
Yes.
So in order to
it all goes back upwards.
Yeah, how Lincoln put it, in order to get to the top chairman, you have to kill all the rest of the people from down below in order to get to the top.
Yeah, and once again, he recruits people like Vito Scaletta to help him out because he got wronged by Sal. Yeah, he recruits Bert, the father of Danny, who got killed in the fire, and Cassandra, who find out he's the leader of the Haitians.
Yeah.
But they thought it was a guy named Baca.
Yeah.
So really, he didn't kill. He didn't solve that problem
at
all.
She's actually Baca.
Yeah. No, I don't think she actually is Baca. I think she just had someone named Baca be the front.
Oh, okay. So
because remember, even John Donovan, the guy who's basically helping helping Lincoln out, he's like these smart brains. He can get dirt on anybody.
Yeah, but
he had no idea who was in charge after Baca died.
Gotcha.
And Lincoln put together after he found her that Baca's never in charge. It was always you, wasn't it? It is
That's crazy.
It is honestly like interesting to see how this story pans out, and it's one, in my opinion, is why I think it's a better story than Angela's story, because every character in the story is portrayed as intelligent, broken, but still enough in the right, enough in the wrong that you can see their argument, but also kind of figure out how to go about it personally.
Yeah, no, that's true. Because the moments when Father James and Lincoln start talking about certain moments, like you can really understand from both perspectives, but it's just like you as an individual, like you gotta see what would you do in this scenario?
Yeah.
Because and it's just like I love those moments, and even with him and Lincoln and John.
Yeah.
Look how much they have. Like I'm like they both agree that like Sal Marcon and his whole entire family and his business just needs to go.
Like
it needs to go.
Like you would think that because I argue that James and John are the only two people that really understand who Lincoln is.
Oh yeah, they do.
But I would have at one point made the argument that James is the angel on his shoulder, while John is
it is, yeah. Most definitely it is.
But here's the thing, they both agree that Sal needs to go. But James just wants him to stop at Sal.
Yeah.
John, we find out later after, and then this is after Lincoln's gotten his revenge on Sal and basically and whatnot. We find out that John basically recommends that Lincoln kill off. Remember, we get Cassandra Burke and Vito to be our kind of like sub bosses, our lieutenants in this mafia, which isn't really a mafia, it's just an organization at this point. He says, the guys you're working with, kill them off. And if you do that in an ending, you get, in my opinion, not only the worst ending for the game, but objectively the worst ending. Not even just emotionally the worst ending because it's just ending on sour.
It's just bad.
It's just bad. You get this ending. I'm gonna spoil it for you now. If you go in, there are three options in the game: leave town, or rule, or stay. And then if you stay, you have two options: rule together or rule alone. If you rule together, you find out that Lincoln basically succumbs to every excess. He does everything, and he has his empire basically spanning across the entirety of the United States, which is why I think that's one of the non-canon endings.
Yes.
If you choose rule alone,
you kill all.
You kill Cassandra Burke and Vito.
Yeah.
Then
you walk out, get in your car, and then Lincoln and then Lincoln tries to start the car. He says, "What the fuck?" And the car explodes. And then come to find out, it cuts to Father James, and Father James admits on the interview that he killed Lincoln.
But we also that throughout this game, we are flash forwarding actually to interviews with John, a random FBI guy, and James. And at one point, Nikki Burke, the daughter of I forget what her name is. She's there and gone.
Yeah.
And we flash forward to interviews where they're talking about the Lincoln Clay incident.
Yes.
And depending on which end you take, the last testimonies were different. But James admits that because of when Lincoln killed all three of those lieutenants, he decided that he needed to kill Lincoln. And it's one of those because it's out of character for James.
It really is.
And it's honestly, given everything that we know about Lincoln, it's out of character for Lincoln to kill the sub-bosses.
Yeah.
An argument can be made that him taking over might be on the cards.
But killing your own people, nah.
That was out of character for Lincoln.
Yeah, it was
out of character.
It was.
But anyway, getting back to it, and the whole time, the whole point of this is that Lincoln's focused exclusively on Sal. Yes. No other mafia gets brought into this. No other crime lord gets brought into this. It's all just Sal and everybody connected to him. Yeah. And he starts from the bottom and works his way up.
He literally does. Good God.
And once again, Burke brings up a good question when he gets all three of them together. Why not just kill Sal? It'd be like, what, an hour's work would be done? But Vito and Cassandra all basically agree. And what would that solve? Nothing. We would basically have a price put on our heads, and someone else would come take his place.
Yeah.
And Lincoln's like, if we're going to take out Sal, we got to back into a corner, remove everything from it. And throughout the course of the game, that's what happened. And so much happened. It's honestly kind of hard for us to go into all of it.
Yeah.
All those small details.
Right.
Pick up the game yourself. Play it through. I think is very much worth your time on a narrative level, and I think gameplay wise it looks okay too.
Yeah.
But how do I put this? The way Lincoln goes about dismantling Sal's entire empire.
It's genius.
He's a savage, but it's savage in like the most practical, smart way possible.
No,
he has receipts and facts for everything. He has a comeback for everything. He has a threat for everything. Even when you get all three of those people together and they're all like, "I don't trust any one of you. How do we know we can trust Lincoln?" And Lincoln goes, "Look, I don't trust a single one of y'all at all. Now y'all can either help me or walk out that door.
Yeah.
But if you walk out that door, you're on my list too."
Yeah.
And everybody in that room, after he had helped them and saw how he operates, understood, I don't want to mess with this guy.
Me either. I was like, oh man. I was like, bro, he is so savage. But yeah, I agree with you. Some of the dialogue that he has encountered before he kills some people is genius. Is genius. Oh my God. Cause I know one of them had said please, can you just give a man one last time to pray? He could pray up top.
And he said you can praise you're going up. And what happened is, to give context, this man is the head of the Dixie Mafia, basically a bunch of redneck racists.
Yes.
And they took over the Hollow, aka Lincoln's home, after Sal shot it. It was kind of Georgie's idea that handed the all black neighborhood over to a bunch of racists. So smart one on you, Georgie. But he basically ends up killing this man. He has him strung around, hung up on a Ferris wheel, has to go up. He says, please, let the man say a prayer. He's like, you can pray as you go up. And you see him turn on the Ferris wheel, and this guy just gets hung, slowly going up, and he's not praying. He's trying not to die.
Yeah, please.
And he's just...
He's dead.
He's dead and gone. It's honestly savage. And Lincoln the entire time, we actually find out that one of the things he was trained in Vietnam was psychological warfare. Everything he does when he kills like a big player, he makes it a public spectacle to further scare Sal.
Oh yes, he does.
And it eventually works. Sal is backed over onto a corner that he has nowhere to go. There's no way by the end of the game, there's no way Sal can get this casino up and running without dipping into the commission, and that's the last thing he wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So he gets everybody that he has left, goes to the casino, including with his son Georgie, and it is a final stand. Lincoln tears up the entire casino, kills Georgie, and then he gets to the top for arguably one of the best scenes in this entire franchise.
No, it is. Because Sal really wasn't expecting Lincoln to be up there. His son. But when he see Lincoln, he says, the moment I saw you up there and not my son, it's done between us. And he's literally having a drink with his son's killer.
Well, I would argue that Sal had it in the back of his mind that there was a possibility that it was going to be Lincoln or Georgie.
Yeah.
And I think he understood that's probably going to be Lincoln.
Yeah, but he should have known that because the way that he tore up his business like that, that quick.
Yeah.
You should have known Georgie was not going to make it through that fight.
Yeah. And so basically you get up there and Sal's looking out over his unfinished casino, looking out over New Orleans and basically going, there was a time, yada yada yada, and all this stuff. He turns around and he sees Lincoln and he goes, look, whatever happened between us is done.
Yeah.
It was done the moment it was you that came with that elevator, not my son.
Yeah.
So he sat down, offered him a drink, and they drink.
Yeah.
They drink and they talk, and Sal actually explains his reasoning behind why he did what he did.
Yeah.
He says, I'm not going to be sorry about it because I'd be lying. It wouldn't be right. I'm not, and he's like, I'm not going to apologize for anything. So he says he has 3 dreams after that's when his brothers died. One dream is he's getting rocked by his boat. Another dream is he's getting bitten by rattlesnakes. And the last dream is his son in a casket, his throat slit like his brother's.
Yeah.
And Lincoln explains a dream he had, that he's in a foxhole. By the way, in case you guys don't know what a foxhole is, in military
training?
vernacular. A foxhole is a hole you dig in the ground that you hide in to avoid being hit by mortar shells. Basically explosive bombs that come from the sky. And he's like, I'm in this foxhole. So he's in a combat environment where bombs are going off, bullets are flying everywhere. And he's like, he's in this hole. A lot of these Viet Cong come out. They tie me down. I can barely get away. I can't even get away from them. They're stuck in the back of my mouth, and I can do anything but just watch as the people next to me are gutted in their sleep.
Yeah.
And Sal's like, damn. I can't imagine that's going to end anytime soon.
Yeah.
And remember, this all takes place less than like what, 2 or 3 months after he got out of Nam.
Yeah.
So it's still fresh in his mind.
Yeah.
But so all that happens, and Sal says, look, we're done. Do what you're gonna do. And you can, if you take the alternate ending, you can just sit there and let Sal talk, but Sal ultimately shoots himself in the head. Or you can do the thing where you take command and Lincoln falls over the desk, stabs him in the gut, and kicks him out the window.
And then the third one, honestly, is the one where Lincoln just shoots him in the head.
That's another one. So so either way, Sal's dying.
Yeah.
And then you think the game's over, right?
Yeah, it ain't over.
But who should show up but Leo Galante?
The guy from Mafia 2 at the very ending.
The guy who basically helped father Vito Scaletta throughout the entirety of Mafia.
That's right, yeah.
And he shows up at the end with a bunch of armed guys, and they surround Lincoln, and he looks at him and goes, "There's a lot of trouble down here, Lincoln. Lincoln Clay, right?" And Lincoln's like, "I'm assuming you're Leo Galante." So Lincoln knew who Leo was.
Yeah.
And he goes, and Lincoln's like, "You here to kill me?" And Leo goes, "Yeah." Oh, not yeah, but it's like, law of the commission wants you dead.
Yeah.
Leo doesn't want him dead. He don't think he really cares.
No. But commission does.
Yeah, because they're paranoid. They're scared because look at what Lincoln did to one guy. It was one guy, and look what Lincoln did to this one guy's entire operation. And they were concerned that he was going to come after them. And Lincoln goes, "I just want to Sal. I don't care about the rest of you guys. I want to Sal." And Leo's like, Sal got what's coming to him.
Yeah.
Apparently Leo literally told Sal that he was going to be a W, but he meant it figuratively. Leo was again called it from the beginning. But Leo basically tells Lincoln, he's like, look, once a month, Sal will send up 20% of his take in cash. Every month, 20%. And Lincoln goes, well, I don't want anything to do with this. I want to just walk away. And Leo goes, this is the last time we'll see each other.
That blew my mind.
Which is wild, because once again, every single game up to this point has reiterated the same fact. Even movies about the Mafia resist the same fact. You don't get out of this life without a bullet in your head.
The fact that he was able to give Lincoln a choice and say, you know what, if you leave, that's it.
The only thing that he gave Lincoln a choice, Lincoln told him that one of his alternative choices on the table, and Leo goes, that's also fine too.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is because, once again, Lincoln's black, he's not Italian, he's not made, he really isn't part of the mob.
But still though.
But still, he messed up arguably one of a very big player in the mob.
Yes.
And he was able to basically say, well, if I want to walk away. And Leo says, fine by me, man. And after that, you go down, you have a meeting with John and James in the church. John basically lays out to James that this city is already corrupt, and eventually a Sal Marcano will show up again.
Yeah.
And Lincoln basically says it could be worse or it could be me.
Yep.
And James says, please just go. I cannot help you out anymore. Yeah. And then you have the option to either, once again, rule together, rule alone, or leave.
Yeah.
And ironically, the rule alone thing was something that John specifically suggested to Lincoln.
Yeah.
And that's the ending that gets Lincoln killed.
Yeah.
But if you leave, which I would argue is probably the best ending of the game.
No, it is, yeah.
It's sad, yes, but it's the best ending because Lincoln goes away, he wanders the world essentially.
Yeah, but he's still on top of that, he's still dealing with the PTSD and he's really not truly living.
Yeah, he doesn't belong anywhere.
No, yeah, he doesn't.
And it does circle back around to what that guy said at the beginning.
Yeah.
You might be home, but you haven't come back.
Yeah.
Because at one point James even says he gets postcards from Lincoln in his ending.
Yeah.
He even says he got one from Vietnam.
Yeah.
And he gets the FBI agent who's hell bent on trying to prove
Man.
that Lincoln is this cold-hearted monster. He's very clear that this guy's like just a prejudiced bigot.
No, yeah. I was going to say because I could just about looking at it like he really kept putting like all the blame on Lincoln, but I'm like, you got Sal Marcano and the rest of his members that were way higher than Lincoln, doing all this illegal stuff, but you just go back to Lincoln Clay.
The only thing illegal Lincoln actually did
was killing
mob bosses who were already on their way out. The guy even admits that he did the city a service, but he still wants to bring them in.
Yeah, I'm like, why? Leave him alone.
Think of it like I forget what the guy's name is in Mafia 1 that Tommy's talking to in the bar, telling his story to. I forget what his name. I want to say it's like Nolan or something like that. Roland, something like that. It's a Scottish guy.
Yeah.
And it's like that, right? The Scottish guy's been looking for the guy who killed Morello for years.
Yeah.
The ghost, the phantom of that case. And it turns out he's having breakfast with the guy. Thomas Angelo is telling him everything, even admitting to the fact that he killed Morello. Yeah. I think for his FBI agent, that's who Lincoln is. Yeah. But the only difference is, in this, as opposed to Mafia 1, where, yeah, Tommy did some horrible stuff, and he deserved to go to jail for what he did.
Yeah.
Lincoln, arguably, because we're playing with his point of view, we see, well, we played with Thomas' point of view too, but because we see what happened, Lincoln is only guilty of killing racists and mob bosses.
Yeah, that's it.
But it's like what happened with Martin Luther King Jr., where they tried to pin him being an adulterer.
Yeah.
But it turned out that was just a CIA plot by the guy in charge of the CIA who just didn't like Martin Luther King. He didn't like that King was rallying all these people who were down on their luck, all this basically the working class, into a movement that could potentially change the face of the country for life.
Yeah.
Honestly, that permanently changed the course of the country. So that's basically what I think people being an allusion to, that this CIA guy who was just after Martin Luther King. And then you have James, because I mean, even one of the endings, I think the ending where Lincoln says he rules, but it's the rule together ending. The guy literally says, "I agreed to be part of this documentary because I want to shine light on the real Lincoln Clay." And if you play the game, you realize Lincoln isn't a monster.
Yeah.
He does some terrible stuff, sure. But if he was a monster, he wouldn't have stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
He only wanted Sal.
He would have kept going.
He would have kept going if Sal was still alive. So yeah,
it's just crazy. Like that whole story, that whole game is just it's incredible. It's just incredible. You just go on this journey with like Lincoln Clay and just see him just demolish a whole empire.
And once again, he gets off scot-free. The only thing he has to worry about
The
only thing he has to worry about is his FBI agent who keeps a file open on a case they deprioritize.
It was closed. It was closed.
He's only keeping it open so he can try to find Lincoln.
He will like black folks. I know he don't.
Yeah.
I know he don't. I'm putting it out there. I know he don't.
But on the one hand, I get where he's coming from. Lincoln killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, look at the people Lincoln killed. And then he just left. He didn't do anything else.
Nope.
He was trying to live a peaceful, normal life as best he could. And you're just going after him because he killed all these people. You're not looking at the people he killed, right? And I don't say it. He knows who the people he killed are.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. He just wants Lincoln for some reason. It's like it's just in his head he has to get Lincoln.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh my God.
In the final interview with John Donovan, it turns out that John Donovan actually had an ulterior motive for helping Lincoln out the entire time. Sure, he was helping Lincoln out 100% out of the kindness of his heart.
Yeah, of course.
But it turns out that the JFK assassination in this universe was orchestrated by Sal Marcano and one of the senators who's interviewing Donovan during the documentary.
Yes, and I just love how assertive John was being in that room, that courtroom. He said he literally told him, I need you to shut the fuck up and sit down now.
And they sat down, and then he lays out that the guy interviewing him, the guy who's trying to pin Lincoln is the man behind the assassination attempt.
He is
the successful assassination of JFK.
Yeah, and then the guy tells John tomorrow. The cameraman's like, I don't care if the cameras were around.
I want them to see this.
I'm just like, yo, Jonathan is savage. That was some savagery. But the fact that he shot him, the senator, walked out casually like nothing happened and smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, he literally just walked out.
On camera. They're still filming this. Keep in mind, shoots him, walks out casually and says, y'all have a nice day. I'm like, yo.
And it's at that moment we realized that John was just as broken
as Lincoln.
Because we find out that the reason why he was so furious and so hell-bent on finding out who killed JFK was that when he was in Vietnam, he's gutting this woman, cutting her off her heart. He's describing this gruesome scene where he has her, and I quote, scattered around me. And what do I hear? That the president of this great country has been assassinated.
Yeah. And
he says after the Marcano case, he goes to Marcano's files and finds all these co-conspirators with that senator's name listed over and over and over again. And he says, I'm not finishing with you, I'm starting.
Yeah.
And on that tape, basically everybody's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
If anyone saw that tape that was fit to that, oh, they're screwed.
Oh yeah, they're screwed.
It is.
Because John is coming after every single person involved in that issue.
He was on a warpath, and it is fantastic to see.
Yes, it is.
Just finishing thoughts on this. And once again, there's 3 extra DLCs that we're going to get to over the course of the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But the story of Lincoln Clay, I would argue, is as high as Mafia can go. And we talked about this during the cutscenes too, but it's like, this game should not have been a Mafia game.
No, it did.
It should have been a spin-off.
Because when you brought it up, I actually thought that to actually seem like the actual case and like the word Mafia thing, but it didn't feel like Mafia.
Yeah.
It felt like something different.
Because this is the one game where you're not part of a mob. You're just a guy who builds his own his own organization, and then it ends with you forming somewhat of a mafia, but also ends with you someone leaving or dying. This isn't a mafia game. It's a story. It's a story where the mafia is in it, but it's not a mafia story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We're literally to a point where the mafia is the antagonist this time. Whereas the first 2 games, it was a mob boss that was the antagonist, or in the second game, it was several bosses all bouncing around and muddied and disjointed, because I think it's part of his major problems. But, let's look here. But the mob is the enemy in this one.
Yeah.
And it's a guy trying to get out of the mafia. And I'm wondering, where do they go from here? This game came out in 2017, 2016, something like that.
Yeah, I think 17. But as far as what the future holds for Mafia, I'm honestly not even sure. I think just how they did all 3. I think that's it.
Yeah, because they advanced the years. I think at this point they have to jump forward like the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
And at this point, the only thing that I think would be interesting would be to see Leo Galante's story in Mafia. That would be the only interesting one I could think of to see. But as of this one, I think the developers painted themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate what they were doing, trying to advance time, show this world grew, that things changed.
Yeah.
But they should have made it a story out of time. That
Yeah.
you could tell a story at any point in this world and just have it be the way it is, like how Grand Theft Auto is. Yeah, you can advance in time, but the time's just a setting. What happens in Grand Theft Auto happens in the time period. The crime, the drugs, all this stuff. They pay homage to certain movies, certain genres. Like, you know, Vice City was a homage to Scarface. Ball 3 was a homage to Godfather. San Andreas was a homage to black gang culture. 4 was, well, 4 was basically just a guy trying to come up in his world. We'll get around to GTA 4 at some point.
Yeah.
GTA 5 was basically just a bunch of common criminals, some coming out of retirement, one guy that comes from the streets.
Yeah.
But that happens any time. The Mafia, I feel like, is a idea stuck in time.
Yeah.
And
I
advancing,
agree.
and advancing time does not help it.
Yeah.
So I think as of right now, unless the developers can prove me wrong,
That's it.
Mafia is a dead series.
Yeah.
It's a series that they have to go back in time to tell more stories with.
Sure.
I don't see it happening.
Yeah, you do.
I don't. So as the president as it to say, Mafia 3, it went out on a high note. It didn't sell well, but it did go out on a high note.
No, it did.
But that's it.
Yeah.
That's as far as it goes. So join us again next week where we start the first of 3 DLCs.
Yeah.
And we will see you then. I'll announce it the next.
Peace.
Deuces.